All right, welcome back, everybody. The Desert Wind is a Raider. Good Sunday morning, Las Vegas and Raider Nation listening around the world. A special shout-out today to Master Sergeant Jimmy Renfro, listening in Afghanistan. Send me a note this morning. Thank you for your service. Welcome back to Las Vegas's only Raiders sports talk show, all sports talk show, that is. Silver and Black Today. I'm your host, Scott Branson, founder and publisher of silverandblacktoday.com. Today, joined by my co-host, NFL draft analyst for silverandblacktoday.com, and that is one Kelly Kreiner. What's up, man? Did you survive the Sin City blizzard of 2019?
I did, man. I mean, it brought me back to them lovely, wonderful winter days back in Indiana, except we actually got snow back there.
Well, real snow, and but now, how long have you been in Vegas again, Kelly?
About a little, almost 14 years.
Okay, 14 years. So you've seen it. I've said it every 10 years we get a snow like that.
I would say I was here for the last snow that about 10 years ago that amounted to people not being able to get their cars up the hill into the housing development that I lived in back in the day, and you saw just people trying to push cars up this hill that's nothing, and I'm just walking by laughing at people.
Well, and we got folks out there who have said that the snow is causing the stadium to be delayed, which is ridiculous. And we're going to have Tommy White later. We'll talk about that in a second here as we have another jam-packed show for you. It doesn't matter that it's the NFL offseason. Reminder, we are streaming today's show worldwide on radio.com. If you don't already have this app, you're missing out. Radio.com is a place for best sports, radio, music, talk, you name it. Download it and listen to us live anywhere you may be. Also, we're live on video again today. You can come right into the studio with Kelly and I and Jason Stepanian. Jason, I called you. Oh, my gosh. It's an inside joke. David Stepanian and Mark Bonilla, our executive producer, is also here today because he just wants to see us. But you can come in the studio on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, via Periscope, and on Twitch. We're back up on Twitch, by the way, for those gamers out there who want to see us. Always a ton of listener, viewer chat happening in there. So join Raider Nation from around the world and be with us on the video simulcast. In addition, check out our website, silverandblacktoday.com. This week, Kelly was a busy boy. Great pieces on what Raider fans need to watch at the NFL Combine starting this Thursday, as well as a piece on some free agents and much, much more, all on the only Raiders website based in the team's future home of Las Vegas, silverandblacktoday.com. Okay, let's get topics on the table and tell you what's ahead on today's show. What might or should the Raiders do in free agency? That's a good question. Is a trade for Antonio Brown in the cards for the Silver and Black? Will talented offensive lineman Kelechi Osemele be a Raider come camp? Well, one of our most popular guests, Moton of Bleacher Report and others, he writes elsewhere too, will be with us. He'll give us the lowdown on all of that, and you won't find a more thoughtful and informed guest than Mo. He's coming up next on this segment right after our first break, so make sure you stick with Mo's. I always get great feedback on Mo, so that's good, and we'll have him on to talk all about that. Then, at the bottom of the hour, I haven't talked about him in a lot because I think I had good feedback from our listeners, Kelly, who said, don't give these guys credit. And I call them the tinfoil hat guys. They're at it again. Ridiculous rumors and outright lies about the construction of the Las Vegas Stadium are making the rounds again, from Twitter to YouTube channels. Circus clowns again claiming there are issues that will delay the Raiders' new stadium out there. So Tommy White, a member of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board, will join us live in the studio to give you the truth. Yes, even in our 2019 social media culture, facts and the truth matter. Tommy will update Raider Nation on the stadium progress and put to bed the nonsense, while White will be here at the bottom of the hour. So get ready for some truth bombs. Tommy does not ever, Kelly, mince words. Ever. So
it's like people act like nothing's ever been built in weather before.
I know.
I mean, yeah, we get snow, like I said, once a decade.
Yeah.
This isn't snow. This isn't bad weather. This is nothing that's going to hurt any kind of construction.
Yes, and not only that, but remember, they built a stadium in Minnesota. Okay, but anyway, we're going to talk about that with him and get into him. The Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board, he'll be here even, and that, again, that's at the bottom of the hour, just so you remember. The second hour kicks off catching up with some former Raiders, and we, as Al Davis once said, and we talk about it all the time here, and that is, once a Raider, always a Raider. Kalin Burnett, former Raiders linebacker and current player with the Alliance of American Football's Arizona Hotshots, will be with us. We'll hear how he's doing in the new league and his plans for his future, and talk to him about his time in the silver and black. Also, Kelly, Burnett has Nevada roots as he starred in college for the Wolfpack of UNR, so we'll be happy to catch up with Kalin and see how he's doing.
Surprised you let him on the show, being UNR.
Yeah. Well, I have a child who's about to go there, so I have to soften. It doesn't mean I have to root for them, but definitely going to have a lot more interest. So then after that, and there's been some travel issues with him, so hopefully we're going to connect. I think we will. Raiders 2018 sixth-round draft pick Azeem Victor will be with us live, a late cut with the Raiders this past season. Victor is also playing in the AAF with Steve Spurrier and the Orlando Apollos, who won again last night. Victor will tell us about his pro football journey as he works his way back to the NFL. We'll also talk about the NFL Combine, which kicks off Thursday in Indianapolis. I kind of put that together. And about the Raiders' free agent targets for this offseason. We'll close the show with Kelly's Corner. Who the hell knows where that goes? Well, actually, we know it's actually going to go to a massage parlor. Ooh, that doesn't sound great. But anyway, we'll talk about that. There you have it, Raider Nation. You're up to date. We've set topics on the table for you here on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Now it's your turn. Pick up the phone. Give us a call. Get on the air. 702-889-5978 is the number, Kelly. And so we talk about the stadium. Tommy's going to be in here. Yesterday, on Saturday mornings from 8 to 10, Tony Cardasco hosts our sister show, Saturday Sports Beat. And Tony had on Jeremy Aguero from Applied Analysis. Jeremy's also very involved with and briefs. If you watch any of the streams, he's the guy who's talking like a million miles an hour for like the whole session. He runs the board meetings, and Tony had him on, and it was interesting because I know you and I have talked about this in the past, like the Super Bowl, right? The fact that Las Vegas can get the Super Bowl. I think the earliest is 2025, right, Kelly?
Yep.
But then a lot of us have always said, do we need it? Because so many people come in for the Super Bowl anyway. It's besides the site of the Super Bowl, it's the most traveled to destination for the Super Bowl. So Tony had an amazing conversation. You can listen to the recording of that up on iTunes for Saturday Sports Beat. But we cut out a couple of clips I want to play for you at the top of this hour. Number one was about the Super Bowl. And here's a clip. It's a little bit of a longer clip I want to play about the impact that it would have on Las Vegas should the Super Bowl come in 2025 when the next opportunity pops up. So here's Jeremy Aguero of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority and of Applied Analysis talking about what the Super Bowl coming to Las Vegas at the new stadium would mean.
In terms of the Super Bowl, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Raiders have talked about 2025 is now the next available Super Bowl, the way the NFL is doing it now. So they're looking at 2025, 2026. Nothing is set in stone yet. But look, I mean, the Super Bowl would be the single largest event in Las Vegas history, which is remarkable for us overall, right? I mean, you think about all of the events that have come to Las Vegas. You think of all the boxing matches, conventions that we've had, all those type of things. The Super Bowl would likely be bigger than any of that. And the other part that is a little bit of a balancing is that, we almost host a Super Bowl in Las Vegas in terms of the number of people that are here more than any, almost every weekend. Right? I mean, there's a lot of analysis that was done around the Minnesota Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And we look at the number of people that were in Minnesota for the Super Bowl. It's like somewhere between 100 and 150,000, depending on what set of data that you look at. During that same weekend, Las Vegas had 300,000 people in town, and we didn't even have the Super Bowl. So there is some balance that needs to happen there. But if you look at room rates, you look at what it means for our brand to be a Super Bowl city, you think about those type of economic impacts, there is a lift that comes with, frankly, the biggest sporting event on planet Earth. Well, the biggest sporting event for Americans on planet Earth, right, that we sort of think about. And the order of magnitude is really tremendous. I mean, that level of spending that I mentioned a little while ago in terms of the average spend per visitor, right, we know it is higher when a UFC fight comes to town. We know it's higher when a big convention comes to town. We know it's higher when the rodeo comes to town. And the Super Bowl is likely to be the highest of them all.
Jeremy Aguero. Well, there you go. So that was Jeremy Aguero from Applied Analysis and the Stadium Authority Board talking about the impact of the Super Bowl on Las Vegas and that it would be the biggest event ever hosted by Las Vegas. And that's saying a lot, Kelly, because when you look at the fact that Las Vegas has had so many big events and we have major conventions all the time, huge conventions. And I know you, having worked in the service industry for a long time, you know this firsthand because you work a lot of them. But hear what he says. I mean, is there any question in your mind that bringing the Super Bowl here is a no-brainer for everybody involved, including those of us here?
Well, I think it's, like you said, the biggest thing is, like, do we need it? No, we don't need the Super Bowl out here. Do we want it? Yeah, because it is the marquee event. You know, it's not only would it be it's easily the biggest sporting event of the year. You know, you can say what you want about any of the other sports or anything, but the Super Bowl is the number one. So, I mean, you've got that. You've got a new stadium. You want to show that Vegas is a major city? Throwing a hell of a Super Bowl weekend is going to get that done.
All right, we're going to step aside for our first break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Moton from Bleacher Report, Fansided. He writes a bunch of different plays. One of the most level-headed guys that covers the Raiders overall, in my view. He'll be with us to talk about things like Antonio Brown, things like Kelechi Osemele, and what the Raiders may do in free agency. Pardon me. I'm choked up. You're listening to Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Sports Radio 1140.
This is Cliff Branch, former of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
Indeed you are. Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas, Nevada. A sunny Las Vegas, Nevada, still snow-capped mountains from our big blizzard. All 1 inch of snow on my backyard lawn. Unbelievable. But we're not here to talk about the snow. We're here to talk about the Raiders, and we're going out now on the phone lines with one of our favorite guys in the business, the most level-headed reporter, I believe, covering the Raiders, talking about the Raiders, and that, of course, is Moton, who writes for Bleacher Report, Fanside, and some others. Mo, how you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. See, you say level-headed, but some people will probably call me a hater, but, I'll deal with that.
Well,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I know. Well, one of the things, too, and we always tell people that because, we live in an era where media has been democratized, right? So there's a lot of fan-oriented media and sites and blogs, and there's some great ones, some great podcasts. I know you've probably listened to some of the ones around the Raiders. I have, too. And, those guys are great, but that's not what we are, and that's not what you are. When you're trying to be, objective and report on a team, you're going to talk about the good things and you're going to talk about the bad things. So I feel you on that one. Okay, now you've been busy this week, Mo. You dropped several pieces on the Raiders, and we'll start with your latest on Raiders free agency, and it kind of came off of fellow Las Vegan JT the Brick's interview with head coach John Gruden, and Gruden dropped some nuggets on his and Mike Mayock's approach to free agency in 2019. Talk about what's different and kind of what we kind of gleaned from that conversation with John Gruden this week.
Well, as you know, John Gruden is very open. Sometimes he talks too much about his plans. Sometimes he may get himself in a little trouble. But he said something that I thought was pretty refreshing as he sticks to it. And I'll quote, he says, "We're not looking to add players at the end of their career. We're looking for blossoming young players. Those guys usually don't hit free agency." Now, when he talks about those guys that usually don't hit free agency, he's talking about probably the Frank Clarks of the world, the Jadeveon Clowneys, the DeMarcus Lawrences. Those guys are probably going to get franchise taggings or get a long-term deal. But I think Gruden and Mayock will go after second-tier defensive ends, such as maybe Trey Flowers, Dante Fowler Jr. He can even throw in Ezekiel Asa and Brandon Graham, who are older, but can still be productive in a role that they can suit in a system under Paul Gunther. And I think they can both have a kind of a reemergence. Ezekiel has dealt with an injury last year, shoulder injury, landed on IR. Brandon Graham, not as effective as he was in the previous year, but again, I think he could be pretty effective. So those guys are people you want to watch out for. As far as safety position, I know Earl Thomas is probably the top prospect at position, but a little older, but I think he can still be effective. He led the Seahawks in interceptions before he got hurt, broke his leg. You look at Landon Collins, who reports came out cleaned out his locker, so he may not return to the Giants. You look at Clinton Dix, who I've mentioned multiple times, Trey Boston. Those guys are all in play. Now, when you look at the Reggie Nelsons, the Frosty Ruckers, the Leon Halls, Clint McDonald's, they served their purpose. They probably were there to teach the system to the younger guys, and now they can move on their way. Even if they do sign, they probably won't have huge roles. So we can just kind of scrap last season and look forward to the next season and the younger guys producing under Paul Gunther, under John Gruden, having a pretty solid season.
Hey, Mo, it's Kelly here. I agree, and I'm hoping that Gruden's going to stick to this, but we all know that Gruden's not the biggest guy when it comes to coaching younger guys, coaching rookies, and everything like that. But you see with this class, like I think Brandon Graham would be a great pick for him, but he is going to be 31. Do you see him sticking to this, or is he going to fall back in his old John Gruden ways of going to that early 30s guys, try to squeeze 2 or 3 years out of him, try to make him good, or is he really planning for the future this time?
Well, it's good you asked that, and he did talk about how the league is changing, and I think if you don't evolve, you're going to fail. You have to evolve with the league. And what the league is now is it's a matchup league. And I think he understands that. You need guys who can do multiple things. You don't need older guys who just have a specific niche, can do one job, and that's about it. You need younger guys who are versatile. And I think he understands it. He kind of hinted on that during an interview with JT the Brick. that this is what the league is. Again, it's a matchup league, and I think he will go after some younger guys. Now, I will say, and I said this in the piece, that you still want some veterans in the locker room. And I think you get that from Jordy Nelson. If Donald Penn hangs around, he stays. You get that from him. Leadership. Lee Smith, who's been around the Raiders for a while, you get that from him. He's going to have his veterans, and those guys are going to get some playing time. But he also understands that you have all of this money. You have 3 first-round draft picks. You're going to have to play the young guys, and that's going to be the fabric of your future going into Vegas. And again, I think he understands that he's going to have his veterans, but the young guys will play.
Again, we're talking to Mo Moton from Bleacher Report and others, writes at Fansided as well. So, Mo, another piece you wrote this week was about talented all-pro guard for the Raiders, Kelechi Osemele. Osemele had an up-and-down year, mostly because of injury. I mean, he was injured, yet due to his carrying the team's kind of the second biggest cap hit, I think it's around $10 million for this season. Some are speculating he could be a cut candidate. I think that's a bad move. I don't think you do that when you have experienced linemen, especially an all-pro guy on the line, and you're rebuilding with some young guys on the line. You don't want to do that. How do you feel about that? You agree?
I totally agree. And I'll just real quick anecdote. This is why I pay attention to my mentions and people copy my mentions with comments. And someone made a good point. Do we really trust Tom Cable to develop young offensive linemen yet? Do we really? Because if you don't, why would you cut an established all-pro and start over, or maybe uplift John Feliciano, who hasn't played much, but he still needs development. So would you want to cut an all-pro established Pro Bowler for someone who's younger that Tom Cable is going to have to groom and develop? I don't trust Tom Cable enough to do that yet. And I haven't seen enough from Colton Miller or Brandon Parker to suggest that he can. I know Colton Miller's been hurt, but again, he gave up the most pressures in the league, third most pressures in the league at 65, and gave up the most at 16. Again, I know he was hurt, but he isn't the only player in the NFL history who's played hurt. And I feel like if he was that hurt, they should have sat it. But anyway, going back to Kelechi, it's a terrible move if you're going to cut him, but I don't think it happens. Matt Schneidman, I believe, of the San Jose Mercury News already said that Mike Mayock is a big fan of Kelechi. I don't see him going. Gruden also said, and David Carr said this on NFL Network, that the fabric of this team is going to be built in the trenches. So basically, they want to keep their interior offensive linemen. He didn't mention names, but if you're thinking about it, Kelechi Osemele, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, you have to figure those guys are keepers.
Absolutely, and couldn't agree more. So now, again, we're talking to Mo Moton. Mo, on the Raiders draft, now you also wrote a piece about the Raiders draft, and particularly about a guy Kelly has had actually on his mock draft going to the Raiders, or as a Raiders possible top choice from day one if he's available, and that's Quinnen Williams. Now, a lot of fans focus on the edge because the Raiders, obviously, they have holes all over the defense, but because of the lack of sacks and because of the trade of Khalil Mack, a lot of fans focus on the edge. But you agree with us, right, that interior lineman, especially a kid as talented as Williams, that would be a great move, especially with the growing number of interior defensive linemen who actually lead their teams in sacks.
Right, and absolutely. And I think I said in the piece that we have to get out of the mindset of your edge rusher or your defensive end has to lead the team in sacks. It's an archaic way of thinking. And I think you see that with Aaron Donald with the Rams, Chris Jones, the Chiefs within the division, who I wanted the Raiders to draft, by the way, just putting that out there. Led his team in sacks, and those guys are the crop of interior guys who are coming up, and they're basically proving the point that, again, your defensive end, your edge rushers, you want good players at those positions, but they don't necessarily have to be your best pass rushers. Your best pass rush could come from the inside, and I think Quinnen Williams could provide that. And a lot of people said, well, the Raiders drafted P.J. Hall in the second round, Maurice Hurst in the fifth round last year. Why would we draft Quinnen? And I will submit to them that both of those players, Hall and Hurst, both played less than 50% of total defensive snaps. So Paul Gunther said this when he took the job, that he was going to rotate players. And I didn't see that as a one-year thing because of the transition. I feel like that's going to be his plan going forward. He's going to rotate players. Again, earlier, as I said, this is a matchup league. You want to have players that come in on third down, rush the pass. You want to have players who can stop the run on the early downs. So you're going to have players rotating in and out anyway. I think Quinnen Williams could stay on the field all three downs. He could stop the run. He could sack the quarterback. You saw evidence of both last year with Alabama. I know he's a one-year guy, but when you look at his upside, and where you're going to be picking and the type of player he was. If you just look at his traits, his hand technique, everything, his step off the line, I believe he could be an all-pro player. And I don't think you pass up on an all-pro caliber prospect.
No.
If you have a need to fill and you say, okay, I want the second best cornerback or I want the third best defensive end, I'll use Montez Sweat. And I said this in the previous article that you don't want to draft a Montez Sweat at number 4. If you have a Quentin Williams there, you just don't reach for need over a high
Over talent.
player.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree, Mo. And man, I think it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Raiders. And of course, we have the combine coming up on Thursday. So we want to talk to you after the combine. But we certainly think and appreciate you joining us today. You can follow Mo on Twitter at MOEMOTON, Mo Moton. Mo, man, thanks for joining us again here on Silver and Black today.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
guys having me on. Talk to you guys after the combine.
All right, buddy. Take care now. All right, that was Mo Moton from Bleacher Report. We'll have him back on, and we're going to step aside now for a break. When Kelly and I come back, we'll be joined by Tommy White from the Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Help us talk the silver and black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Matt Gutierrez and your host, Scott Gulbranson, on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140. That's right. The only all Raiders talk show in Las Vegas. We're proud of that. We are early, yes. The Raiders are not going to be here until next year. Thanks, Mark. Mark's photobombing me on video. I love it. If you're watching the video, you can check that out.
Everybody wants their 15 minutes, man. Gotta be on the camera.
We're going to be joined here in a moment on the phone by Tommy White, who's, of course, the general business manager of the local 872, the Laborers Union, but also a member of the stadium board here in Las Vegas to talk about some of these ridiculous rumors that are persistent. People spread the rumors and then say they didn't spread the rumors, and it's pretty crazy. But that's okay. I mean, we don't name names because we don't want to give people the attention. But it's one of those deals where, if you're not in Las Vegas, it's hard for you to understand what's happening here, and I get that. But at the same time, it's also one of those deals where when things happen around the stadium, believe me, there's people here watching. It's not like the media is going to cover if something's wrong. I mean, cover up if something's wrong, and that's sort of a little bit of what's been alleged, Kelly. And it's just weird because I don't think people understand how things are built in Las Vegas and how just amazing the construction industry and all that is here in Las Vegas. So we're going to bring in Tommy White now to talk about this. Tommy, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm running a little late.
Oh, don't even worry about it, man. It's we luckily because of the phones we can get you and make sure that we don't have to worry about you coming in. It's okay. No big deal. You're a little busy these days. There's a lot going on in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But let's start.
There is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let's start with some of these ridiculous rumors that have been going around this month concerning the stadium project in particular. It's really, really laughable, Tommy. The first has to do, and this goes back a couple weeks, but we haven't had a chance to talk to you since then, so we want to do it on the air, about some problem, quote-unquote problem, with the steel for the stadium. What was that about, and how is the steel with the stadium doing?
So, I mean, if you look at the yard over there on Tropicana, we got enough steel in the yard over there to build a whole other structure, right? I mean, the guys are on time on the steel, right? So I don't know where they came up with the problem of the steel. I mean, it's a steel structure, right? So I don't see any problems with the steel. I've been out there. I was out there yesterday. I actually drove all the way out there this morning. Then I had to go look at another future project that's coming up. And they got these big masses on the north side that are going to wind up going up pretty soon. But there's no problem with the steel. I really wish I knew where these conspiracy theorists come up with, there's a shortage of steel. Listen, even if there were tariffs on the steel, which I believe there was, but that didn't change anything.
Right.
I actually think they ordered the steel before the tariffs went into place. But there's no problems with the steel. We will have a stadium that's going to open up on July 30th or July 31st of 2020. I know I always say June, and I know it's going to be June, but I got a little clock calendar on my desk that ticks by the second. I think we're at 522 days right now. So I just don't get it. There's so many other things we can come up with, but if somebody wants to come up and say there's a problem with the steel, you got to remember that stadium's like a giant erector set, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not another one built like it, so I don't see issues out there. I mean, we're hanging drywall in there already.
Yeah, well, and that's Tommy, I was going to say, that's the second thing I wanted to ask you about. Again, we're talking to Tommy White from the Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board and the Laborers Local 872. Tommy, this week, and most of the people who listen to us here in Las Vegas know and around the country know, we had a few days of snow and some rain over the past couple weeks. And about every 10 years, because I remember the times I was here, 1998, 2008, and now 2019, we get these anomalies where we have snow, we get snow accumulation. But some of these nuts out there are saying the roof might not be able to handle the snow and that the weather in Las Vegas is changing and that we've had more precipitation than any time in our history, which is false. I checked. I called the National Weather Service on Friday because they're awesome, by the way, on Twitter. Follow them. But it's completely untrue. Not only that, the stadium site received, according to their estimations, and their office is right down Dean Martin from the stadium site, about an eighth of an inch of snow. Did snow impact any progress on the stadium, and can the roof handle snow?
No, the snow did not impact anything. I mean, you know. Listen, Las Vegas is so crazy about what they do with the weather. They even called for a school day off on a day it was sunny, right? But listen, the snow didn't impact. The roof was built, to withstand, a thunderstorm, a hailstorm. There's not going to be no problem with snow. I mean, listen, we go through this every 10 years, right?
Right.
And to be honest with you, I really wish it was like every 2 or 3 years because, to have snow up in the mountains in Las Vegas, it looks really beautiful. But we had no impact with the snow at all. The roof is going to be fine. I mean, again, these are people. I would really like to see one person that comes up with some type of theory that's an actual architect or an engineer or even a construction worker. I mean, have a construction worker. What do we got? We got some guy that sits in his basement, right, that does nothing but come up with these conspiracy theories, right?
I know.
And he's got a little bit of a following, but so do I. Right? I don't see anybody that follows me talk about how that the stadium's going to fall apart. I mean, come on, really? Give me a break.
Well, and not only that, Tommy, but part of that, too, which I found, and you and I talked earlier in the week about this as it was coming up, was the fact that you have also other people talking about how because of the snow, concrete got damaged, which shows no understanding of how concrete works. And by the way, Tommy, tell me if I'm wrong. Did they not build a stadium with like 60 inches of snow every year in Minnesota recently?
So Mortensen, who actually did build the stadium out there for the Vikings, right? I mean, I don't think it was 60 inches of snow every year. I think it was 60 inches of snow every couple of weeks, right? And they still went ahead and finished that stadium on time. It's the same builder, the same engineers that have worked on Viking Stadium are actually working on the Raiders Stadium. Snow don't bother us. Rain don't bother us. We did the box culvert right underneath the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, what we saw was we got to see how good the box culvert actually works.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, we had some water runoff. The stadium wasn't flooded out. Anybody that knows concrete, they know that concrete hardens in water. Look at Hoover Dam, right?
Yep.
So, the snow didn't damage any concrete on that project. Rain didn't damage any concrete on that project. And, I didn't even have any guys let go early on that job. I mean, we had some road jobs that some of the guys got to go home early that one day. But other than that, we didn't have anybody go home early on the stadium.
Yeah, no, and there were reports too that they weren't working, that work had halted, and boy, I again, people who are not involved in construction look from the outside and they think they know what's going on the site by looking on a camera that's on top of Mandalay Bay. So, very interesting. Now, Tommy, I have to ask you this. Besides asking you the question if you were on the grassy knoll in 1963 for Kennedy, have you ever worked? I mean, you've worked on massive projects here in Las Vegas going back to the 80s, including the Stratosphere Tower, including City Center, and pretty much every big project that's been built in Las Vegas in the last 25 years you've been part of. Have you ever heard so many dumbass rumors about a big project here in Las Vegas?
No, and you know what? Probably the biggest project at one time would have been City Center, right? And we put up more steel in City Center, and you got to remember, City Center is a confined space, right? And we put up more steel in City Center, and we actually finished City Center on time. They had an issue with Harmon Tower, but that really wasn't a construction issue.
It was design, right?
And actually worked. Yeah, it was a design issue, and it actually worked out to the benefit for both the contractor and MGM Properties, who owns City Center. So I've never, in all the projects, and really, Scott, like you said, going back, my first job here in town was the Stratosphere Tower, right? And I worked up on top of the Stratosphere Tower when it was snowing on top of the Stratosphere Tower, and it was like 65 degrees down on the ground, right? So, and we were actually pouring concrete that day on the top of the tower when it was snowing. So, we've never had an issue with construction in Las Vegas. I mean, if you look at all the resorts, there's nowhere in the United States, and I could probably say the world, except for maybe Dubai, has some really tall, very tall structures. But there's nowhere in the United States that where the construction workers out here in Las Vegas can build something year round, right? I mean, we build. That's what we do, and you can see that by some of the world class resorts that we have along the Strip.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. Well, Tommy, I appreciate it, man. Now that steel, those big steel, they look like big blocks. Is that the rest of the outside structure before they then start maybe putting some stuff up for the roof?
Well, I think that's part of the outside structure. Then you're going to see some ramps that are going to come on the side. You know, it's kind of like when you watch the stadium being built. We started at one end, we worked our way all the way around, completed the circle. Then we worked our way around, going up, and you're going to see that starting to happen again. You know, we have those. You know, we have some of the biggest cranes out there that are in the United States that's going to be picking those cages up. And listen, it's just going to be a fantastic project.
Absolutely. Tommy White from the Las Vegas Stadium Authority and from the Laborers Local 872. Thanks for joining us today, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Go Raider Nation.
All right, have a great week.
Tommy.
All right, we're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL Combine. You're listening to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
1140.
Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to the Silver and Black Today.
Indeed you are. Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Our companion website, CBS Sports Radio 1140, you can find on radio.com, where you can listen to all programming here. You can also find us at silverandblacktoday.com, where we have stories. And in fact, this week, our own Kelly Kreiner wrote a couple stories that we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk a little bit about, first, the NFL Combine and the draft. But we have to go out to one of our key callers every week, one of our great listeners, our great friends, and that is Wally in Henderson. Wally, you want to talk about Robert Kraft, man. What's going on?
Hey, Gully, I need your advice on something.
Okay.
So say you're little Bobby Kraft, you're sitting around your board. You got two decisions to make. A, you can go to Four Seasons, get you a nice $2,000 drop-dead gorgeous escort. Or B, you can get in your limo and roll up to a Florida strip mall for a $79 rub and tug. What would you do?
You know what? My wife listens. I would do neither. No. You know what? If I had the money.
What kind of tool is this guy, man? This guy is something else.
Well, if I had the kind of money that Robert Kraft had, and I was single and 77 years old, clearly, they say money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a lot of things. So I get where you're going with that, but Kelly has a take on this too.
Well, you guys are missing the boat on this, because you can eat a 5-star meal anytime you want. Every once in a while, you just want a cheeseburger.
A what?
Yeah, every once in a while, you can do the whole high-end.
I think in this
escort
case
thing.
it was more like Chinese takeout.
I was going to make that joke, and you stepped on the joke. But that's all right. I'll give that one to you. But I don't know what he's worried about, because it's only a 10-yard penalty for illegal use of the hands. So he's got nothing to worry about.
Man, there's so many there's so many jokes. Wally, are you watching the internet? Because the internet can be the most awful place on earth right now. But with this stuff, it has been hysterical. The Photoshop pictures over women saying this is the prostitute and it's Tom Brady. What do you think should happen to Robert Kraft if this is indeed true? Remember, you have the presumption of innocence in our country. So unless he is proven guilty or pleads, what do you think the proper punishment for an activity like this for an owner?
They're not going to do nothing. That guy has so much pull in the league. He's going to get a little slap on the hands.
You think so?
As long as he's not into the trafficking part of it, nothing's going to happen to him.
Well, and that's the thing too. I actually had somebody I know say, "Oh, well, you know what? Prostitution. If you do that, whatever. But when it gets into sex trafficking, that's a problem." Remember, and I know what you're talking about. Sex trafficking now is horrific. It's a worldwide problem. And we look at it as these people are kidnapped and they're shipped all over. But remember, sex trafficking, a local pimp who pimps out a woman is also a sex trafficker. So I think that, either way, we look at it as a harmless crime sometimes, but it's really not. So I think, I've heard some pundits, Kelly, say that he should, if he's found guilty, again, presumption of innocence, if he's found guilty, he should be booted out of the league.
I think that's kind of ridiculous.
It's a misdemeanor.
It's gonna be the same thing from what happened with Irsay. Is they'll $500,000 fines, the most they can fine him, 6 games away from the team, which he's the owner. Who cares? It's like the NFL can only do so much. The guy, he's not a player. He's an owner.
Right.
The owner's not that much involved in the sport. And I think I read somewhere that fining him $500,000 would be fining the average American like $2.47. So it's like, okay, here's a check. The one thing I found on this is Adam Schefter said he wasn't going to be the biggest name that came out of this.
Right.
Then the State Department's like, we don't know what they're talking about. They're basically saying like, oh no, yeah, he's the biggest name. So they're basically saying, oh no, yeah, you're going to remember this. If somebody else comes out, he may have just disappeared in the background. Now it sounds like he's going to be
the top guy.
He's going to be the big guy.
Yeah, now there might be local community leaders or people that are prominent in the community down there that might be part of it. But for the rest of us across the country who don't live there, it doesn't really matter.
Nobody cares.
All right, Wally, man, thanks for listening. I appreciate the call.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right, you too. All right, that's Wally, our caller from Henderson. Hey, okay, so we have a couple minutes. Well, actually, we only have a minute left. We're going to get back, Kelly, when we come back later in the show. We're going to talk about NFL Combine because you wrote a piece, and I invite people to go up and read it, silverandblacktoday.com, about storylines from the Combine. So I think for the Combine, for the average fan who's not a hardcore fan, the Combine seems like just a lot of stuff, and you don't want to deal with it. So I thought the way you boiled it down on stories people should pay attention to is a nice little primer.
Yeah, as dumb as it sounds for most people, and as dumb as it is for me sometimes, the Combine has so much weight. You know, it's a job interview. You know, it's the biggest job interview these guys are ever going to have. You know, and a lot of times, the interviews we don't get to hear about. But I mean, there's a reason that the NFL Network televises all this stuff now. That's how big it's got. People actually, you can bet on this. People watch this. Yeah. It's, I mean, you're out there. It's a show.
I've had people tell me that no one cares, and I'm like, no, they televise all of it. If they didn't care, they wouldn't televise it because they couldn't sell advertising. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, if they didn't have the ratings, under 459 for the 40 for DK Metcalfe is the dumbest gambling line I've ever seen in my life.
You and I are going to run the 40 later in the parking lot, and we're hoping that we can finish it in a minute.
I haven't ran the 40 since college, and it was because a quarterback at the Combine ran a bad 40 time.
Oh, yeah.
So I said that, I can beat that.
Yeah.
So I went out, I ran it, I beat the 40, and I've regretted it ever since.
You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We'll be back right after this.
1140 with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbransen.
Welcome back, everybody. Good Sunday morning to you here from the crew at Silver and Black today. You know, the late, great Al Davis once said, once a Raider, always a Raider. And so we believe that here, too, on the show. And, of course, Kelly and I have been talking about on the show, too, a lot about the Alliance of American Football League. And we're real excited to be joined this morning by former Raider linebacker, the 2012-2013 season, Kaelin Burnett. Kaelin, coming off a tough loss yesterday at Salt Lake, he's a member of the Arizona Hotshots in the AAF. Excuse me, let me spit that out the right way. Kaelin, man, thanks for joining us. How have things been getting back on the field and playing under Coach Rick Neuheisel?
Man, it's been a dream come true, actually. You know, I've been out of football for a little bit. I was actually playing arena ball, but, you know, it feels great to be back outside, you know, and Coach Neuheisel and Phil Savage just gave me a chance, you know, to keep my dream going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what's great. We've really loved being able to see players like yourself. And like you said, arena ball, but to get out and play on the big field and play the football game that you grew up playing and obviously went to college and became a pro doing is really cool. Now, for you to get back to pro football in that format is great. I mean, to have you come back out there, you had a stint as a coach at your alma mater at the University of Nevada, Reno. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what was what's been your motivation to kind of keep going? Because I think some guys get to the point where it's like, you know, they might, with challenges and with setbacks or switching leagues, whatever, they might kind of say, okay, I'm done now. What is it about playing that still gets you fired up?
You know, I'm young, you know, it's just something about, you know, that camaraderie and just being around the team atmosphere, you know, I miss that a lot, you know, and just be around that, you know, that just really keeps me going. And actually, when I got in the league, I told myself, you know, when I get around, you know, my mid-30s, that's when I'll hang it up. But, you know, as a young boy, you know, that was my dream to always, you know, play professional football, you know, and, you know, I just won't let nobody tell me no, that I can't, you know, and
yeah.
And, you know, I've always been an underdog, you know, and I always, you know, had to prove people wrong, you know, and I want to show people that I can still play this game.
Hey, Kaelin, it's Kelly here. I've got a question for you. Anytime these, like, we saw it with the XFL, one year and out, anytime these fledgling leagues and things come up, everybody's wondering, you know, will this stick around, will this stay? Is that something that was in the back of your mind or some of the other players' minds? Or are you guys just out there, you know, we're playing football, we're going to do what we can, and we'll just let the cards fall where they may?
Yeah, you know, that's above my pay grade. You know, I just show up on time, you know, and just, you know, show up at practice, and they say game time is at 1 o'clock. Hey, I'm there, man. But, you know, that I'll leave that up to them, you know, to make sure that this thing sticks around. But I have a really good feeling that, you know, this thing is going to stick around for a while. You know, they have some big names behind it, so I'm very confident that this league will be around for a while.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Kalin Burnett of the Arizona Hotshots in the Alliance of American Football League, former Oakland Raider as well. Now, Kalin, what for you now, getting back out to the outdoor game and getting ready for playing this season? Talk about that challenge for you and how it's been, and really this opportunity that the AAF is allowing players like you who want to get back into professional football and hopefully back to the NFL. What has that meant for you, and how have you felt so far in doing that?
Real good. You know, I feel like, you know, it's actually an advantage, you know, and, you know, they want guys that's ready, you know, and if I'm a GM, you know, and I got a college guy, you know, and I have a professional guy that's actually been in pads last week, then, you know, we kind of have an upper hand, you know, and we got 10 weeks. The championship game is the week of draft day, so we in the pool with guys that's undrafted or drafted that's about to come in, and it's kind of like do we take a college guy or do we take a guy that's ready? So
yeah,
it's an advantage.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And, of course, the championship game, which you guys as the Hot Shots, one of the favorites to get there, and the game will be here in Las Vegas at Sam Boyd Stadium, a stadium you're familiar with.
Yes.
Let's talk, before we get to the college piece, and we talk a little bit about the in-state. I went to UNLV, but my son's going to Nevada, Reno, so we'll talk about.
As he should.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But so you played 2 years with the Raiders and a couple other NFL teams after that in Canada. What about what was your experience like in Oakland for you? I remember the big block kick, the punt I think you had against the Giants. It's one of the plays that sticks out for me. But what was your experience like playing in the NFL and playing as a Raider in that silver and black?
Probably the best experience of my life. When I played that first preseason game, I was like, man, like this is where it's at. Like, Oakland was my first love. When I got released from there, it really hurt me, and it took me a while to kind of get myself back together because, when I got released from there, it was from I had my meniscus and all that. But, once I recovered, and recruited, got myself back together, I was pretty fine. But, playing in that silver and black, it's nothing like it, and like you said, I went on to other NFL teams and all that stuff. But, the fan base that the Raiders have, it's nothing else like that, It's probably the best of the best.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too. I think that's why I led off the segment, right, what Al Davis always said, and now Mark Davis said, which is once you're a Raider, you're always a Raider. When you become a Raider alumni, they're always welcome back in. Now, you were I know you're too young to really remember too much about the Raiders playing in L.A., but you're an L.A. kid, too. Did you grow up a Raider fan?
Actually, please don't be mad at me, but I actually grew up a Rams fan.
That's okay.
But
I grew up a Charger fan, so I'm worse than you because I was in the division.
Oh yeah, then you're gonna get more hell than me then after this interview. But yeah, I grew up a Rams fan. I'm gonna be honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that the thing is with playing for an NFL team, I always thought that. I mean, I never even got close to even thinking about playing college sports. So forget about pro sports, but it always seems to me interesting when a guy grows up and you have a favorite team and then you're playing against them, but I'm sure you put that aside because you're a pro. Now, let's get to the college thing because you have Nevada roots, right? So we're in Las Vegas, of course. I went to UNLV, and I have to remind you, the cannon is red right now. I'm sure that's
okay,
not...
that for now. For now.
Yeah, although now... Unlike when you were there, although they had some good years too, but the UNR basketball team is really good now, top 10 team. But playing at Nevada and the rivalry inside the state, UNLV's never been very good at football. I'm very hard on their football program because they never seem to be able to turn it around. You went back and coached for a little while with your alma mater. How was that, and what was it like going back after your playing days?
It was real cool. It was a lot of hours.
And not much pay, right?
It was a lot of hours. We'll probably get into the office around 6, and there'll be times I wouldn't leave till almost 11 or 12. And I'm like, man, like this is what coaching life is about. But, I really appreciate Coach Polian and the staff accepting me. And, just that was kind of where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And actually, while I was there, I actually got a call from Saskatchewan, and I had to leave there. And, it was real good, to get back to the kids because, I want to say that was probably my first time that I went back and actually gave back to, the younger kids on the team, got to actually talk to them, and just let them know, what the NFL is looking for and just what to be looking out for and what to do to get to the next level. So, I really appreciated that time while I was there.
No, that's great. It's always nice to, because you've had so much experience, and of course your brother played in the league, 8 or 9 years too. So you, as a family, you guys have so much experience to pass on. It was nice that you were able to do that for a little while. Now, getting back on the field with the AAF, I assume your goal is to get back to the NFL. And what do you think you need to do for for maybe the rest of this season with the Hot Shots doing so well. What do you have to do to maybe get folks to notice? I've already seen your name bantied about by folks in New York with the Giants and some other teams. But for you individually, what are you focusing on in your game to get back there?
Just really taking one game at a time, not so much focus on my stats. I'm just really just trying to be a team player and just, make the plays count. Don't count the plays. And, like I said, just taking one game at a time. If it happens, it happens. Everything is in God's hands, So, if it's meant to be, it'll happen.
No, that's great, man. Well, we're certainly glad to see you back out there on the field, especially I know I heard from Raider fans this past week who were excited to see that you were going to be on the show, and we wish you nothing but the best. And we look forward. I think we're going to see you. I really believe we're going to see you and Orlando in the championship here in Las Vegas come April.
I think so, too. Tell Azeem we ready for him.
I will, absolutely, man. Kalin Burnett, former Raider and current Arizona Hot Shots linebacker. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you for having me.
You take care now. All right, Kalin Burnett, University of Nevada, Reno Wolfpack, Oakland Raiders, now Arizona Hot Shots. But, Kelly, this is, again, one of the stories why I like the AF. I know they're getting some bad press this weekend with the rating stuff, but it gives a guy a chance to play, to get back to where he wants to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of these guys, some of them have dreams of being back in the NFL. Some of them, like you said, you just want to be out there, the camaraderie again. This probably won't or might not lead to another NFL job, but it's still, everybody wants 1 or 2 more years of what they had. These guys get that opportunity now.
Yeah, no, that absolutely, and that's really cool. And I think that Kalin, such a nice guy, and his brother again too played in the league for a long time. It's always nice. I mean, I think you follow players. It doesn't matter if they were with your team for a year or two. He's one of those guys who a really good guy, and so you like to hear that he's doing well, and it's good to see that he's got another chance to do that. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, more ahead on Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Drivers! Get it.
Safe
The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
If you don't have radio.com, what's wrong with you? You can take Kelly and I with you in your pocket.
Okay.
I like saying it. When Matt was on the show before too, he would hate that, but I like it. I think people find the humor, but maybe I'm just wrong. I am wrong. Maybe twice a year.
You think?
Yeah.
You think people find the humor?
I know they do.
All right.
They tell me on YouTube. All right. So now let's get back to football.
If it's on YouTube, it's got to be true.
Unfortunately, due to a travel delay with the Orlando Apollos, who are making their way to Georgia as we speak, and there was some big delays down there, Azeem Victor will not be with us, so we hope to catch up with him next week to get his story, his journey in the AAF, and, of course, to talk to him about he was just a draft pick last year for the Raiders in the 6th round, Kelly, so we'll talk to him when we get a chance. So we're going to switch gears now and talk. We started a little bit of a discussion earlier, Kelly, about the NFL Combine. And for those of you who don't have the time or the inclination to really study the Combine, like Kelly and I are going to do, it's a lot to take in, right? So Kelly wrote a piece this week on silverandblacktoday.com. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But Kelly, you kind of gave everybody a primer. If you're a Raider fan, particularly looking at it through that lens, what are some storylines that you can watch for at the NFL Combine? The first one you talk about, we'll go through these one by one, was DK Metcalfe's medical checkup. Excuse me.
Yeah. All of these I've kind of looked at just for the Raiders because they got the 3 first-round picks. So I didn't go too deep into, the late round stuff. I just kind of stuck with the first-round things. And for me, DK Metcalfe's my wide receiver number 1. I think he's one of the he's the one guy that can be that true X wide receiver that can stretch the field, but he has a neck injury, and if he gets red flagged by 1 or 2 teams on that thing, he's got a chance where he could really fall. I think he's gonna wind up clearing with enough teams to where he's still gonna be a top 10 pick. That 8 to 10 range is where I'm expecting him to go. But if there's any question at all, it's not like a knee or not like a shoulder or something. It's a neck. That's a career issue.
Right. And you talk about in the story, Kelly, that this is the kind of guy, if Al Davis was still around, he'd probably take him at 4.
Oh no, there's no question about it. If you think the Darius Hayward Bay thing was kind of obvious when he ran that blade,
yeah.
Well, I mentioned in the piece, 3 days before the draft, the commissioner was like, all right, I'm saving us 15 minutes of ESPN airtime. The Raiders are taking Metcalfe at 4. Let's move on.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no. I mean, and the early word you said is that his neck is healed, but they have to go through the medical test. But then during the performance-based tests on the field, whether it's running, whether it's catching, whether it's, all the different moves, agility, that's where they're going to be watching too to see if any of that's been impacted because you have so much film on the guy.
Yeah, it's he's going to destroy the combine. I mean, he's one of those just physical freaks that's going to just tear this thing apart. So like I said, that's why the medicals will be big. I don't think you're really going to notice any issues like you're saying out on the field. But I mean, it's going to be a huge issue. It could be the difference, like I said, from going to the top 10 in the first round to falling maybe into the second or third. Because this draft class is just so deep at wide receiver.
Yeah. Now, Kelly, the next storyline you had, and it's funny because on our different platforms that we're streaming video today, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, we've had a bunch of folks talk about how they believe that Ed Oliver is better than Quinnen Williams based on our discussion with Moton earlier. I totally disagree, but one of the things that you talk about as a storyline to watch for Raider fans, because there is a possibility they could take Ed Oliver, is his measurables. Describe what you mean by measurables and how it might impact his draft stock.
For Ed Oliver, the biggest issue he's going to have is height and weight. The NFL is changing, but I mean, there's still that kind of old school mentality where each position has to have certain, height, weight issue, certain height, weight numbers they want to see you hit. And if you fall under or over those things, that's the first question mark they look in your game. And with Ed Oliver, it's not so much the height, but it is his weight. Aaron Donald slipped in the draft because they thought he was a little undersized at 295. Ed Oliver was listed at 274 as late as last year. We don't have an official height and weight. But yeah, if he comes in that 270, 280 range, that's going to be an issue with his stock. If he comes in at 295, 290, and he doesn't lose any of that explosiveness, 4 is definitely a possibility, because I know Mayock is a big Ed Oliver guy.
There you go. So that's good insight. Now, speaking of wide receivers, two, and of course one that I'm partial to because of Forks Up Sun Devils, is N'Keal Harry and Kelvin Harmon. What you say Raider fans should focus on there, if there's a possibility they become part of the Silver and Black, is their 40 times. We know N'Keal Harry, big receiver. He gets those 50-50 contested balls a lot. He's a great target in short yardage situations because of that. What do they have to do from a 40-time perspective to really elevate their stock?
Both of them can get separation, but it's not just that speed. With Harry, it's more of his size, and with Harmon, it's more of his route running. If these guys run in the 4.4 range, going to help their draft stock. If they hit the 4.5 and above, that's when you're going to see him maybe slide a little bit. Because when you watch the tape, it's just you don't see that top end speed you want from a first round wide receiver. You see the separation. Harry's great with yards after catch, but that's in the Pac. That's in the Pac-10.
Yeah.
It's not in the NFL. You're going to have to beat press man coverage. You're going to have to get through the zone. So they're going to want to see that they've got that top end speed, that second gear that they can get to. And I mean, neither one of them are going to be blazing that 40. But I mean, if you get in those low 4.4s for these guys, mid 4.4s, it's going to be a huge for the draft stock.
So they go from being first rounders to late or mid second rounders because of that, or are they going to stay probably between 20 and 40, somewhere around there?
Yeah, they'll both be off. I think they'll both be off in that. They run good 40 times. You're looking in the mid first round. Mm-hmm. If they struggle a little bit, because I don't think either one of them's going to have a terrible 40 time.
Right.
It'll be that late first, maybe early second. But I mean, in my opinion, both these guys are guys that you can take in the first round.
Okay, so then you also talk about after the top 3 linebackers, who's next. So this is the opportunity for college linebackers coming out in the draft to kind of to make an impression, because right now it doesn't look like there's anybody that's bubbled up other than the 3, which is, of course, White, Mack, and Bush.
Yeah, it is wide open in that middle linebacker position after you get these guys. Most people, they throw the outside linebackers in with the edge. So whenever I talk linebackers, it's that middle. It's that middle linebacker position.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I have no idea who I would like. If you told me right now who's your number 4, I could throw out 5 or 6 names, and I'm not excited about any of them. Like, there are some guys that have some potential and could be there, but there's not that one person that has separated themselves from that group of 4 or 5 guys that could be that like second tier, the way the first 3 guys have from everybody else.
Well, and to me, that's what I find exciting about the combine is there's a guy who is out there and suddenly he just blows it away. Now, sometimes that backfires on a team because a guy has a great combine and then he doesn't end up panning out as a player.
More often than not, that's what.
That's exactly what happens.
Because you when you look at the combine numbers, if somebody blows away what you were expecting, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to the tape now and see why, where was this on film? And Rashawn Gary's going to be that guy this year. Rashawn Gary's going to completely blow away the combine. You go back and you watch his tape, and you're like, I don't see any of this on film.
Yeah.
Why is he this athletic? Why is he just this freak of nature? But he's just, he's Superman in the combine. He's Clark Kent on tape.
All right. Well, Kelly, before we take a break here, the last thing you talked about was Cuyler Murray. What do people have to watch? Is it the throwing? Is it the running? Is it his interviews? What is it about Cuyler Murray that people need to watch?
Well, his biggest thing is going to be the interviews. because he's going to have to convince these teams that he's all in on football. You know, he's walking in there with one foot out the door because he has a pro career waiting in baseball. For what we're going to see, his weigh-in's going to be huge. You know, how tall is
Size.
he? How big is he?
Right.
You know,
5'6".
I've heard 5'10", 205 is what some people are projecting. That's awesome if that's what he plays at. To me,
right?
Because
anybody can gain weight.
Yeah, I threw my little conspiracy theory in there that if I'm his agent, I'm like, you're not running at the combine. You're going to run at your pro day. Pack on 7 or 8 pounds. You're not going to notice it on his frame. That's going to bump you up. We can cut that into 3 weeks, 4 weeks before your pro day. Blaze your 40 at the pro day.
Yeah, it's a big business opportunity, so that's how it has to be handled. It's not just handled from a football standpoint. So, all right, well, we have run out of time in this part of the show. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk about off-the-radar free agents Raider fans should pay attention to. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today, CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas. You're listening to Las Vegas's only All Raiders talk show, streaming worldwide on radio.com, of course, and on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Periscope. We have a lot of viewers there. We've had a busy day, so I haven't been able to chat as much with people on there, but we see you guys occupying each other. It's great to always have folks on there and talk about funny. David Crockett on YouTube, holy commercial break. I don't know what that means, man. Was it too long for you? But hey, we bring the entertainment. We're doing our best, and we appreciate you guys being here. All right, so Kelly, now we're going to jump back in to the Raiders and another subject, not related to the Combine, although this time of the year, all player personnel stuff is sort of mixed in and related. You did another piece on silverandblacktoday.com this week, and it was about free agents that Raider fans might be not thinking of. Some of them aren't technically free agents, or they might be. And everybody's looking at the big names, right? And we could name those all day. But what they're not looking at is guys who could maybe jump in and help this team, especially on defense. And so let's run through the number, or should say the guys there. The first guy you talked about, the Giants defensive end, Brandon Graham. Why would he be a guy who fits well in Paul Guenther's system and with the Raiders?
Well, the thing about Graham is if you look at his sack numbers, they're not great. Yeah, but if you look at his pressures, he's all over the field. And that's one thing. Sacks are a little overrated. Because, like, if, say, he blows by his guy and he's going there, the quarterback runs the other way to avoid him, and the quarterback runs into a sack for somebody else. Graham made that play, but he gets no credit for it. You know? And even though he's at 31, he's going to be 31, I think 32 by the time the season starts. He's still a guy he's got some juice left to where he's not going to be your number one main pass rusher. But for a guy that I think you're going to be able to get on a halfway decent contract would go great, especially if the Raiders draft a young guy on the other side.
Yeah, so someone on the end there that's got the experience who can help out. And to your point, pressures are pressures. And this is what we were talking about with Mo earlier in the show, right? Which is if you have Quinnen Williams, if you're fortunate enough to draft him on the inside, again, people focus on the edge, but if you have a great inside push, not only is the NFL changing and you're seeing more of that, guys leading their teams in sacks, but also it frees up that end. Yeah. And it gives you that opportunity. So another guy that you mentioned in your story here is one that really intrigued me because he flies under the radar and had all season long as part of that kind of, I think, somewhat overachieving Bears team, and that was Brice Callahan, the quarterback. Talk about Callahan. I think that do the Bears let him go, or is he gonna be on the market? And if he is, if I'm the Raiders, I'm all over it.
I think he's going to get to the market, and the Ravens signing Tavon Young, giving him that early extension, is going to kind of set his market. I was hoping maybe the Raiders were looking at 4-year, $32 million with about 2022 guaranteed. Young got basically a 3-year, $27 million contract.
Wow.
So Brice he's looking in that probably 10 to 11 range now, which to me is a little much for a slot corner. But with so much 3 wide receiver sets that are getting ran now, slot corner is a starting position. You know, it's not just you're out there on 3rd and long or anything like that anymore. You know, you need a third corner, and corner's probably it's probably the most important position in football nobody talks about.
Well, and not only that, but when you talk about Callahan, 27 years old, so very young, and so he's basically in his prime, as you say. Also, with to your point about 3 wide receiver sets, you have to look at divisional matchups too, right? You talk about in your article the Chiefs. You're going to play the Chiefs twice a year, and the Chiefs are pretty loaded right now on offense with Mahomes and their core Hill and Kelsey, all these guys. So it makes even more sense to invest in a cornerback, but yet you can also draft defensive linemen and other needs and go get a guy like this.
Yeah, it's a corner class not the best this year. You know, I think so if you're going to spend some money, out there and try to get the young guys, he was a guy I would definitely go after because there's not anybody that's going to just shoot out when you're, second, third, fourth round to be a slot corner because your main corners are probably going to, 3 or 4 main guys are round one type prospects.
Now, another guy that you mentioned at cornerback as a possible under-the-radar free agent is a guy who has all the talent in the world, but he can't stay on the field, and that's Jason Barret.
Yeah, I mean, when he plays, he's good. He's undersized. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But and the Achilles injuries could be brutal for him. We saw Richard Sherman came back from Achilles injury and did pretty well. He did better than I thought he was going to, and obviously Sherman's older. So, you still got a younger guy. You've got a little bit of history of a guy coming back and playing at a decent level. So I think you could get him extremely cheap on a 1-year kind of prove-it deal, and that gives you the inside track. Say if he comes back, he is playing well, you can sign him to a longer-term deal.
Well, and one of the other big needs, Kelly, for the Raiders clearly is, we talked about it earlier, linebacker. And one of the guys that you have pegged there as a possibility for them is Jordan Hicks. Talk about Jordan Hicks and why he might be a good shot.
This guy is a great middle linebacker. He's all over the field. And he's what you need in the NFL now because you need guys that can cover. You need guys that can go sideline to sideline. And, when he's on the field, like that's what he does. He's had some injury issues the last couple of years. I think he only missed 4 games last year, so it wasn't too bad. But he was never quite back up to, being 100% the whole year. He was kind of nicked up and just kind of playing hurt the whole time. If you can get this guy and put him in the middle of your defense for the next 3 or 4 years, if he can stay healthy, he can be a cornerstone. And I hear it all the time. Gunther's system doesn't demand on linebackers. He's got to switch up his system. It's just the way the league is now. You have to have linebackers that can cover, and you can't just be grabbing. It can't be an afterthought anymore. You've got to have guys out there that can play.
No, exactly. And I think that's the thing too. People think about is their system. Like last year with the offense, it was Gruden's system, and Gruden's system doesn't do this, and you can see that his system is dated and so on and so forth. But any coach worth their salt, right, is going to make adjustments. I mean, that's what coaching's about. Coaching is about making adjustments. And to your point, that even comes with scheme. And so some of that will, too, I think, depend, Kelly, on what happens in the draft. If you get another inside guy, you get an edge guy, you fill a cornerback role, and then you get a line, you suddenly are going to look to the strengths of what talent you have at that moment because it is a building year. It's not going to be a team that's going to compete for a championship yet. So you're going to adjust until you get – now, you might get to a point where you have all the talent you need and you can run things a certain way, but the talent will dictate what you run, correct?
Well, I think it should because I think you should take the talent and work around that. But, they've done it in the past is they've built around their scheme at the cost of talent. It's like, well, this guy is a better player, but he doesn't fit what we do. We're going to take this guy instead. And I think that's a mistake. Because, to a point. Obviously there are certain things. If you've got comparable talent, obviously you're taking the guy that fits your scheme. But give me talent. I will make give me the best player I can get at each position, and I will make this work.
Well, and I think that's where sometimes ego comes in from a coaching perspective. We've seen it, right? We've seen coaches, and I'm not saying this is the Raiders coaching staff, but we've seen coaches who will refuse to change things because this is the way I do it. And then you look at talent, you say, okay, you have this great running back or you have this great receiver or this tight end, and you don't use them. It's like, to your point, you have to use the talent you have and adjust to it, not just be so rigid because that's modern coaches who succeed are not that rigid.
Yeah. Well, Raiders fans have seen that with the Nande Asamoah going to the Philly.
Yeah.
We're taking one of the best boundary corners that in the NFL right now. We're going to play him in zone. I can't play zone. He'll get it. It's like you get a guy for a reason. You take, you work on their strengths. You don't try to work them into your system.
Yes. And that'll be interesting to see what the Raiders do, and I think we'll learn a lot as we head into the draft with them and where that goes. All right. Well, we are going to step aside here and take a break. When we come back, it's Kelly's Corner. He's going to talk a little bit about, massage parlors or something related to the Robert Kraft thing, which we talked about a little earlier. But we'll be back with Kelly's Corner to close out the show. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Do one thing to...
And this station.
The Dodgers take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Spring training next Saturday at 11:30 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
Welcome back, everybody. Silver and Black Today, coming to you from CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and on the interwebs via radio.com and also Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. You find us anywhere you can view or listen, and we're there because that's what we do. Thanks for joining us again. I am Scott Gulbranson, joined by Kelly Kreiner. And this last segment, we always have a little fun with it. not enough fun to get arrested. But Kelly, something happened this week with a massage parlor or something. So first of all, you have a story about a massage parlor. Now we're a family show.
Yes.
So we don't get too risque here. But tell us your story first, and then let's talk about this Robert Kraft thing.
Okay. First off, I'd like to say I like your San Diego Padres. It looks like it's brand new. Did you just buy that, I don't know, a day or two ago?
No, the hat is not. The shirt is.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a new shirt. They're going back to brown and gold next year, which they should have done a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Instead of looking like the Milwaukee Brewers, like they have for the last 10 years.
Nobody knows either one of those teams. It don't matter. Yeah, the whole Robert Kraft thing popped up, and it's like, and especially you drive around Vegas, you see those places all over. I mean, they're all over town.
What?
In every strip mall you go by, there is a massage parlor and everything in there. Well,
and they're completely legitimate businesses.
Oh yeah, I'm sure all of them are. Except for that one he went to.
Yeah.
But yeah, for years I was a bartender here in town, mostly graveyard shifts. And there was a little Mexican restaurant I worked at, and there was an establishment like this a couple doors down from, the Barret. It never failed. I would get guys in there all the time that would go over there, then come in and grab a couple drinks and dinner afterwards. And, most of the time people would want to tell me about, their experience. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this. This, don't care. Well, one night, and unfortunately this one happened on my night off. I had to hear about it from the actual bartender the next time I saw him. But it's like a Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there were a couple of, we would have Metro officers come in that they would eat dinner at the restaurant because we're open 24 hours. They could come in, sit in the restaurant, and have dinner. And there were 2 Metro officers in there having dinner. And out of nowhere, this little Asian lady runs into the restaurant trying to get the cops' attention. And so the bartender goes in there to see what's going on. And a few minutes later, a guy walks in right behind him, and he's walking in already talking, kind of he's trying to explain something. Apparently, from the whole gist of the situation was when the lady ran in, she was telling the cops that the guy was not paying for the services he was rendered, and she wanted them to arrest him.
For the massage.
Hey, I don't know what went on in there. I wasn't there. I'm just saying that. So the
guy.
Sure
this isn't a story about you?
No, hey, you know me. I pay up front and I tip well.
You do, absolutely. You're a service industry guy, so yes.
Yeah. So the guy's like, well, I'm not paying for that. That's not what I went in there for, blah, 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 And one of the Metro officers looks at me, he's like, listen, sir, it's 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, and you went to a massage parlor. He goes, we can't prove what went on in there. We have a pretty good idea what went on in there. Pay the lady or we will just arrest both of you. So they're sitting there so the guy ends up paying the lady and everything, but they all left in there. But I'm just trying to imagine that being in that bartender, because nothing really happened in that restaurant. It was rarely anything happened. Just seeing this play out in front of anything, and you're just like, yeah, this is my station in life to where this is what happens at work, and I have to just be like, it happens.
Well, and then trying to imagine not quite that same scenario, but a scenario that it started with, which is illegal acts at a massage parlor with a 77-year-old billionaire. Like Wally said it earlier, I would go pay for a high price is what his take was on it. People make bad decisions. It's just, when somebody like this makes a decision like that, if you're a Raider fan, you're celebrating because you hate the Patriots so much. Any embarrassment, is good, but it really is mind-boggling, and the way it's going to be treated and handled, I think you're right. It's going to be a $500,000 fine, 6-game suspension, just like Polian had in Indy. I'm sorry, Irsay.
Irsay, yeah.
In Indy with the pills and all that kind of stuff and cocaine or whatever it was.
It was just pills and cash.
Oh, pills and cash. That's right.
I love how everybody made a big deal that he had $40,000 in cash on him. And everybody's like, what's he going to buy with $40,000? The same thing a billionaire buys anything he wants.
Yes.
They don't carry that money around because they're actually going to use that.
Right.
They're flashing that everywhere because they can do it.
Well, and living in Las Vegas, Kelly, and you and I spend time in casinos. You see it all over the place.
Yeah.
It's not now for most people in America, just walking around their hometown, yeah, nobody's carrying $40,000 that you know of. Now, if you're on the border, it might be cartel folks. Leave them alone. But other than that, it's one of those deals where it's hard to understand what Kraft was thinking. We don't know. We're not going to know. But hey,
you see things like this all the time, though.
Yeah,
it's like you said he would get the high-priced escort, but it's why
cheeseburger.
It's why you see a guy who has a beautiful wife, or it's why Tiger Woods was sleeping with a Perkins waitress.
Right, when he had a beautiful wife, right.
Sometimes you just need. No pun intended. You need a relief. You just want that. You don't care. It's like is what's this. It's like I said. It's like what? I don't eat at McDonald's because the food's great at 2:00 in the morning. I eat there because it's there. It's easy. I want this. I can get it. It's the easiest way to do it.
It's crazy. Yeah. Shout out to our viewer, JF, who is also a Cuban brother. My wife's Cuban, so we're in the family, brother. Thanks for watching, man. All right, well, that's going to wrap up the show, Kelly. We're already done, man. Goes by fast, right?
Maybe for you. I feel like I've been here forever.
I appreciate that. All right, that's going to wrap it up, folks. Make sure you stay connected to us. Visit silverandblacktoday.com, 24/7 coverage of the Raiders and, of course, the move to Las Vegas. Follow us on Twitter at silverblack2, the number 2 day, Silverblack Today. And check out our podcast, available on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify, everywhere else you get it. The archive of this radio show as well goes up there. So when this show's over, we edit it, we put it right up for you to listen to so you can hear it during the week on your commute, whatever it may be. So don't miss the hijinks off the air. For my co-host, Kelly Kreiner, thanks for being here, Kelly.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And engineer David Stepanian. Our executive producer today was Mark Bonilla. We sign off, but we never say goodbye, Raider Nation. No, we don't. Thanks for listening, and until next week, may the autumn wind always be at your back. Make sure you drop us a note anytime. Sign up for our email list so you don't miss any of the greatest information there is around Raider football. And I'm interested, Kelly, I know I just threw it to the goodbye, but I'm wondering this time next week what our takeaway will be from the Combine.
The first thing is everybody will be, I can't believe they put this on TV. Because if you're not really into it, it's the dumbest thing imaginable. Yeah. But if you're into it, I mean, it's like, that's
everything.
That's your thing.
Everything.
Yeah.
All right, Raider fans, well, thank you for joining us today. We'll talk to you next week. Same time, same place. We'll be here talking Raider football. You guys take care. For Kelly Kreiner, I'm Scott Branson, silverandblacktoday.com. We'll talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.